best storyline of the year. Number 1, MJF and Adam Cole's bromance. Number 2, Sammy turning on Roman and the Bloodline. Number 3, Cody's redemption story. And number 4, Jey Uso leaving the Bloodline. And the winner is not by 74, but 74% of the vote is Sami Zayn turning on Roman and the Bloodline. Abso-freaking-lutely. There was another one I was really, really close to voting for. But before I get into my stuff, throw it to you two. Thoughts on 74% of the vote? 15% was Jey Uso leaving the Bloodline. 11% was MJF and Adam's bromance. This is very surprising. Not one vote for Cody's redemption story.
That story. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
But
to say
that's interesting, though, because he's super over.
Yeah.
He's more popular now than he was when he went against Roman, and not one vote for his story this year being the best storyline of the year. Now, granted, I think that may speak to the other storylines, but I thought that was really, really interesting. So far, that was the only, besides Tozawa, that was the only nominee that didn't get one vote.
Let me address the Cody redemption story. I think probably because the people who probably are super high on Cody has felt that this year maybe hasn't been his best, although I think he's had, for him being on this pause to get back at Roman, I think they've done a great job with him. So I'm wondering if they're like, well, I'm mad since he lost against Roman, so kind of forget everything that's happened, because everything he's done this year has been for nothing, meaning not for the title. Mm-hmm. I would disagree with that, but maybe that's how they're feeling, to give him like no votes for that. But I went with the MJF and Adam bromance. Those first few video packages was some of the best cinematic wrestling production that I've seen. The emotions, and even to now, yes, people can say the double storyline right now is a little convoluted, but just overall, one, it's been pretty much the whole year too. But for me, that hit at emotions, the friendship. This is the first time that MJF ever had a friend. Just all of that wrapped up into one. He went beyond wrestling, and it was about him as a person as well too. And he had a face turn in there. So all of that to me was what I voted for as the best storyline of the year.
Before E starts talking again, he's on mute.
Because he is on mute.
Yes, I'll retort, just say, yes, that was AEW's best storyline by far of the year. I think that if the storyline would have been over by now, or if they would have did a much better job with the devil stuff recently, I think that could have possibly been in order of maybe the best storyline of the year. The one I was going to go with was Jey Uso leaving the Bloodline. And that was strictly because it gave us that moment of the super kick on Roman. It gave us, at Money in the Bank, Jey pinning Roman. And then it gave us main event Jey in his full glory as of right now, which is arguably top 3 over talent in the entire company. But we did our post-show of Royal Rumble, live post-show. And I just remember not even being able to put into words what we just watched. Because it was 28 minutes of no physicality outside of, 3 chair shots and a beatdown after a match, where they gave those guys almost an hour between the match of Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns to almost 30 minutes afterwards to tell a story that took Sammy out of here. It led to, night one being tag team main event for the first time in history. And it made that Bloodline story, without a shadow of a doubt, at that point, being the best storyline, program, however you want to say it, in the history of wrestling for me. So that's why I understand Sammy turn on Roman and the Bloodline. But that Jey Uso one for me was like, man, that's a really close number 2.
Well, I was going to say, I almost felt like in reviewing this that the Bloodline stuff happened like 2 years ago.
Feels like it, right?
Yeah, it seemed like so long ago. But I voted for Sammy. And just because I remember the Sammy Bloodline stuff was like must-see TV. Like, right, I always kind of gauge things based on like some of my non-wrestling fan friends if they watch things, and a lot of them were watching the Bloodline stuff. I remember when Sammy was in the Bloodline. When I was watch SmackDown, my wife, who runs out of the room anytime I turn wrestling on, she will literally, because like, and also so she wears glasses, but she doesn't wear them in the house for some reason, so she can't see either. So she would walk up to the TV. So we got this 50-something inch TV on the wall, so she has to get right up to the TV, and she has to stand right next to it, almost like like in a WE segment when the wrestlers are like right up on the TV, stand to an angle,
just
like looking all awkward, like no one does that, right? Like that's what she's doing when she's watching these Bloodline angles, right? And she just stops what she's doing and she watches and she's entertained every single week. It was just must see TV. So I voted for that. I thought it's just must see TV every single Friday. Jay was just a continuation from the Bloodline, because that storyline itself just was hot. We had kind of wanted to see Jay break out for so long, and it finally happened. So that was just a good part too, and follow up to the Sammy stuff. But to talk about Cody, my guy Cody, right? I didn't vote for Cody in the story because I feel like the story is still going, and I felt like probably for this year it kind of went on pause, and especially we got that dud of a finish on night 2 of WrestleMania, right? So I can't get a vote for that. But I think his story has been on slow play for a long time. Hopefully, we get that story, ramp back up soon this year. But for me, it had to be Bloodline, had to be Sammy and Jay.